what does the training look like? And more importantly, like the swimming's obviously kind of interesting because it's so different.
Sure.
But for the track guys, like, what does the training look like? Is it standard GPP, basic barbell lifts, or, how does that template really work? And then more importantly, how are you monitoring that? Is it all based on what they can do on the track? Like if speed decreases, because it's really just, I think I saw a statistic that they were able to look at like body fat as the greatest indicator of who would win, like the 100 and the 200. The guy that was the leanest, who carried the most amount of muscle and relative to body fat, tended to win.
I know to answer that last one, I know for a fact, they've charted it back like through all the Olympics. No female has ever set a world record in the 100 meters. I believe it's over 9.7% body fat. So those are like really big indicators. Like it's just never been done ever.
Yeah.
So like body comp is obviously really big for us. I'll stick with sprints to keep it easy because all the different groups kind of train a little bit different. But specifically for, we'll call it even short sprinters. So the nice thing about like the way we have it set up here and the way I am with my coaches, I have awesome coaches, like hands down best coaches I've ever worked with in track. So my coaches give them to me for 3 weeks before they do anything on the track. So big thing for us is like we train hard all year. Like I said, all year. So when we get 2 months off in the summer, like that's our off season. And that's usually when other teams are like training really, really hard. That's kind of the opposite of what we do because we train hard all year. So at that point, we've been doing everything in a straight line, right? Everything's been sagittal. I want to get everything else back. I want to work on those qualities that may have diminished a little bit, those things that maybe fall through the cracks a little bit because it's not specific to their sport. So we don't need to train it a ton in season. So that's when we're doing multi-planar things. That's when we're making sure that we're taking care of all those little nicks and crannies that may not be super specific to sprinting. So we'll do a lot of those things. We won't touch a barbell in the summer. And then once we get into those first 3 weeks, like I'll start reintroducing Olympics. The sprint group, we will clean, we will snatch, whether it's from the floor, whether it's from a hang, kind of depends. Kind of depends on where we are in season. The intensity of what that looks like will depend on where we are in season, but those are things that we will do. Jumpers, will do them a little bit differently, but those are Olympics. We will do those with track. It's not that I'm huge on Olympics. I love them with track. I don't use them with swim at all. So that's kind of just how we look at it. But for us, like those are big indicators. We will clean pretty much all year, some form of variation of it. Same with snatch. Lower body, it's going to change depending on where we are in the year. It's going to change for each of the athletes. And then talking about monitoring, in that 3 weeks before we actually do any kind of training, we're going to do a ton of testing. So we'll get on the Nord boards, we'll get on the DEXAs, we'll get on Dari, which is a 3D movement screen, 19 different movements.
Sure.
And we have a whole bunch of different things like laid out for each event group. So the 100-meter athletes, these are like thresholds I need you at to make sure, hey, you're ready to even go get on the track or you're ready to get under a barbell. Or vice versa, when we get in season, we'll test again here coming up to Thanksgiving break. Like we're getting ready to go on season. This is where we need you to be an elite athlete because we have so much data points from our best 100-meter runners, our best 200-meter runners, and they all have things that matter, right? So for our elite females, like I need them, like an elite female short sprinter, like I need your hamstrings, like I need you pushing out close to 400 watts. Like I need that on the Nord board if you want to be really, really good. And that's just the data points that we've had. And I need you over 200 if I want to keep you healthy. So if you're not even at 200, you're not even going outside. We're not doing that. We're going to work on these things that could keep us off the track because we get injured. So we're looking at that. We're looking at force production. I'll do a Bosco jump test with everybody, figure out if you're muscular based or if you're more reflexive, like what makes you go, because everybody goes a little bit different.
Quickly, can you explain that Bosco test real quick?
Yeah, sure. So Bosco jump test. So I'll do 3 different parts. So I'll do a static jump. So we'll start down in the bottom, like deep knee flexion and no arms on the hips or arms on a dowel rod, either way. And we'll just kind of test what that starting strength looks like, expressed as a vertical jump. And then we'll do the same thing as a counter movement with no arms, and we'll test that as well. And then we'll do just a regular counter movement jump. And then you can look up Carmelo Bosco, and he'll have an equation of how you can figure out kind of what your power output potential will be. So we'll find out what their power potential looks like. And then obviously we'll test that again later, and hopefully your potential goes up. The great thing with that is we also test bar speed and power output on a barbell as well. So
how are you testing that? Tendo?
So we use Elite Form. So okay. I'm pretty much Elite Form all the way through. So we're looking at this is what your output should be, and then you want to see that match up with what you're doing on the barbell, right? And then you want to see that thing match up with what they're doing outside. So it's like I said, track's very objective. So we get a bunch of different data points all the time. So we're able to figure out when we get in season, hey, this is what your power potential has been. This is where you are producing power, and we'll get on force plates as well. So this is how much you can produce potentially. This is how much you actually produce. This is how much you produce fast. And then we look at what you're doing on the track as well. So it's a bunch of ways to figure out like if there is something missing in the wheel, if there's a cog missing, where is it? So we're just trying to find all those different pieces that kind of put the whole thing together.
And then look at the body composition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So now you have output, you got performance, and then you got composition.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we look at the holistic piece. Like I think a lot of strength coaches, I think I've been there. I think we've all been there at some point. Just stay in the weight room a little too much, kind of stuck down there looking at those numbers and not looking at things that you can actually manipulate or help with in the actual sport. So for me, I'm at the track 3-4 days a week, trying to figure out, hey, what are we missing outside?